There's a winning and life-changing money on the table, and these dumbasses want to walk away from the table. Pure greed. Woo! Sports. That kind of set the tone for the conversation because we were hoping to hear otherwise. There's a winning and life-changing money on the table, and these dumbasses want to walk away from the table. Pure greed. Woo! Agumake said the 3-hour meeting was instead spent both sides explaining the thinking behind their recent proposals. One of the main priorities, according to one source familiar with the negotiation, was to allow players and owners to connect and ask questions.
The room did not erupt. It went quiet. And in high-stakes labor negotiations, silence is rarely a sign of progress. It is usually the sound of a process dying. It was a Monday afternoon in late winter at the WNBA's league offices in Manhattan. On one side of the table sat the ownership group, a delegation led by Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, flanked by heavyweights like Connecticut Sun President Jennifer Rosati, New York Liberty co-owner Clara Wu-Tsai, and a cadre of labor relations attorneys. On the other side sat the WNBPA's executive committee, a group that included veteran stars, emerging leaders, and, crucially, dozens of players dialed in remotely, watching the fate of their livelihoods unfold in real time. The meeting had been billed as a pivot point. The calendar was shrinking. The season was roughly 100 days away. Sponsors were waiting. Media partners were anxious. Fans were watching. And then, the owners opened the conversation with a confession.
It's the most unlikable league ever. AFL-CIO President Liz Schuler were also on the call and ended with support of the WNBA PA. So Stacey Abrams was in on the call for the players. Do you guys want to grow your sport at all? It's like, can we get the most extreme individuals, most radical individuals in existence involved? You might as well just put Bad Bunny in there. Was Bad Bunny in on the call? Question mark.
That landed like a guillotine. We do not have a counterproposal. There was no fresh paper, no new number, no revised framework, no middle ground to bridge the chasm that has opened between the league's financial reality and the players' structural ambitions. The owners had come to explain their position, not to change it. They had planted their flag months ago, and they arrived in New York not to negotiate, but to wait. For the Players Association, that silence was deafening. For a union that had spent weeks preparing for a give and take, preparing to argue, prepare to compromise, being met with stillness felt less like a bargaining tactic and more like a dismissal. It suggested that the league was not interested in finding a solution. It suggested that the league believed time was its ally and the player's enemy. That 3-hour session did not produce a breakthrough. It did not even produce a genuine debate. It was a demonstration of opposing philosophies. The league spoke in
recent reports. The league has proposed a significantly higher salary structure with a maximum compensation potentially approaching $1.3 million to nearly $2 million over the life of the deal. They're making a point to only say $1.3 million because they're trying to empower the players. Well, it's just $1.3 million. Well, it's nearly $2 million by the end of the deal.
the language of spreadsheets, loss margins, and sustainability. The union spoke in the language of fairness, legacy, and structural revolution. And when they left, the gap between them was exactly as wide as it was when they arrived. This is the story of how we got here and where we go next. To understand why this negotiation has become so toxic, one must first strip away the rhetoric and look at the actual dollars being discussed. Because in the world of labor disputes, the number on the page is rarely just a number. It is a symbol of respect, a measure of value, and often a weapon. The league's current proposal, first floated in late 2025 and reiterated during the New York meeting, represents what the WNBA describes as a generational leap in player compensation. By the numbers, this is objectively true. The baseline. Under the previous CBA, the maximum annual salary for a WNBA player hovered around $250,000. Supermax exceptions and marketing agreements could push that figure slightly higher, but the ceiling was firmly established. Most players earned significantly less. The average salary resided in the low six figures, and a substantial portion of the league operated on training camp contracts.
Able to attend in person. By the way, Kathy Engelbert was involved, as well as some others, and I already named some of these. All right, so earlier in the day, it was reported that there was strong debate occurring among members of the WNBPA 7-team executive. All right, talking about one group believes the time is now to stand firm in the pursuit of the revamped revenue model. The other is less inclined to pursue a strike.
Or veteran minimums that barely cleared $70,000. The proposal, the league's current offer, dramatically compresses that timeline to wealth. Year 1 maximum compensation, approximately $1.3 million, base salary plus marketing, bonus components. Year 5, final year of deal, projection, approaching $2 million when fully escalated and inclusive of revenue, sharing components, total compensation pool increase. The league claims a roughly 400% increase in top-end pay over the life of the deal. Ancillary benefits. Beyond raw salary, the proposal includes significant upgrades to working conditions that have long been pain points for WNBA players. These include housing stipends, full season housing allowances for all rostered players, eliminating the host family model that many rookies and lower salary veterans still rely on, travel upgrades, charter flight guarantees for all regular season and playoff games, removing the commercial travel hardships that have historically distinguished the WNBA from its NBA counterpart, maternity, parental leave, enhanced protections, and pay continuity for players who start families during their careers. Prize pools, increased bonus structures for in-season tournaments and playoff advancement. From the league's perspective, this is not a lowball offer. It is a maximalist concession relative to the current financial architecture. In most American sports leagues, an incumbent bargaining unit that receives a proposal tripling top-end pay and eliminating historic quality of life grievances would be holding a press conference to declare victory. The fact that the WNBPA has not only rejected this framework, but has escalated its rhetoric, suggests that something far deeper than salary is at stake. The structural disconnect. The problem, and it is a profound one, is that the players are not negotiating against the historical salary scale. They are negotiating against the NBA. For years, the WNBPA has observed the NBA's labor peace, underwritten by a 50-over-50 split of basketball-related income, BRI. They have watched NBA max salaries balloon past $50 million per year. They have watched rookie-scale contracts in the men's game pay first-year players more than WNBA legends earn in a decade. They have internalized the argument that the product they produce is undervalued, not because it lacks audience, but because the system itself is designed to suppress their share. And so, when the league presents
the meeting and you all can't get your PA team to show up on time, unprofessional. Dumbest group of women to ever lead a negotiation, honestly. Whomever is advising or filing their head with images of grandeur should be fired. There's a winning and life-changing money on the table, and these dumbasses want to walk away from the table. Pure greed. Whoa! Smoking. Please tell me the WNBA PA didn't go there just to listen to offers.
$2 million max salary as a victory. The union hears a different message. We are not willing to treat you as true partners in the business you helped build. This is the core of the impasse. It is not about whether $2 million is a lot of money. It is, objectively, a life-altering sum for almost everyone in the room. It is about what $2 million represents relative to the revenue being generated and the growth trajectory the league is currently experiencing. If the WNBA is truly entering a golden era of viewership, sponsorship, and cultural relevance, why should the players accept a model that locks them into a minority stake? There is an elephant in the negotiating room, and her name is Caitlin Clark. To discuss the current state of the WNBA without addressing the Iowa sighing is to analyze weather patterns while ignoring the sun. Since Clark's arrival in the league, the commercial metrics have shifted seismically. The Fever Sky matchup in May 2025 averaged 2.7 million viewers and peaked at 3.1 million numbers. That would have been unthinkable for a WNBA regular season game 3 years ago. The 2024 All-Star Game set an audience record. The 2025 edition dipped slightly, but still ranked as the second most watched in league history. Clark has not just been a successful rookie, she has been a force multiplier for an entire ecosystem. Road buildings that were half empty during the lottery era are now selling out weeks in advance. Merchandise bearing her number 22 is among the top sellers in all of American professional basketball. National broadcast partners have reoriented their scheduling to feature her team in marquee windows. And yet, Clark has been conspicuously absent from the theatrical elements of this labor dispute. While other star players have used their platforms to amplify the union's structural demands, Clark has remained focused on the court. She has not been the loudest voice advocating for a strike. She has not used her social media channels to vilify ownership. She has not inserted herself into the culture war framing that has increasingly surrounded the negotiation. This contrast matters. It matters because it highlights the tension between the league's new value drivers and the union's negotiating posture. Clark is the ultimate proof of concept for the players' argument. Her presence demonstrably moves revenue, yet she has declined to weaponize that leverage in the public square. Whether this is a strategic choice, preserving goodwill, or a personal preference, avoiding conflict, is irrelevant. The optics are stark. The player with the strongest argument that the system is broken is letting the numbers speak for themselves, while the union brings in outside activists to make the moral case. The ripple effect. Clark's emergence has also complicated the league's financial messaging. For years, the WNBA's ownership class
in this meeting as well. Connecticut Sun President Jennifer Rosati, good Lord, she's a Caitlin Clark hater. Matt Amishi and New York Liberty owner Clara Wu Tasai and Sue Bird. Good Lord. I mean, it's...
has relied on a consistent defense against aggressive revenue-sharing demands. We are losing money. The business is not yet profitable. We cannot pay what we do not have. This argument, while contested, has been largely accepted by the media as a factual baseline. The WNBA has historically operated at a loss, subsidized by NBA support and the patience of ownership groups willing to endure red ink in exchange for long-term positioning. SportsPro.com and other outlets have documented years of public comments from commissioners and owners acknowledging that profitability was a distant horizon, not a current reality. Clark has destabilized that narrative. It is difficult to claim the league cannot afford to share revenue when the league's primary economic engine is a 2-3-year-old rookie whose presence has doubled broadcast ratings and sold out arenas across the country. Owners can still point to the balance sheet and argue that league-wide profitability remains elusive, but the visual evidence of the WNBA's newfound cultural currency undermines their credibility. Fans see packed buildings and national TV slots. They see sponsorship activations and celebrity courtside appearances. They do not see depreciation schedules or operating losses. This perceptual gap is where the current standoff has metastasized. The owners are negotiating from a spreadsheet. The players are negotiating from a feeling of momentum, and the rookie who embodies that momentum is, by her silence, forcing everyone else to do the talking. If Caitlin Clark's absence from the rhetorical battlefield is notable, the presence of others is equally instructive. Reports from the New York meeting confirmed that the players' delegation included not only WNBA leadership, but also high-profile external figures. Stacey Abrams, the voting rights activist and former
getting paid. They're getting paid. Maybe not. Monday's pivotal meeting between the WNBA players and owners at league offices in New York lasted roughly 3 hours before attendees slowly started trickling out. By the way, there's less than 100 days till the start of the season. Quote, they volunteered that they did not have a proposal.
Former Georgia gubernatorial candidate was on the call. Liz Schuler, president of the AFL-CIO and one of the most powerful labor leaders in the United States, lent her support. Kathy Engelbert, despite her role as commissioner, was joined by figures like Jennifer Rizzotti and Clara Wu Tsai, signaling the league's intent to treat this as a corporate governance matter. To the casual observer, this might seem like standard coalition building. Labor disputes often attract solidarity from adjacent movements. The WNBPA is, after all, a union, and unions support unions. But in the high-calorie environment of a negotiation that is already drifting toward crisis, optics are not decoration. They are ammunition. The union's calculation. By bringing in Abrams and Schuler, the players' sides signaled that they view this dispute as more than a salary arbitration. They are framing it as a civil rights issue, a gender equity issue, and a test case for the future of women's labor in professional sports. The implicit message is that the WNBA is not merely a business. It is a public trust. The owners are not just counterparties. They are stewards of a movement. This is a powerful narrative, but it carries strategic risk. When you elevate a negotiation from a dispute over margins to a moral crusade, you raise the stakes of compromise. It becomes harder to accept a deal that is merely good when you have told your constituents and the public that the fight is about justice itself. The union has, perhaps inadvertently, painted itself into a corner where anything short of structural revolution looks like betrayal. The league's response. The owners, for their part, have leaned into their own branding. The presence of figures like Rizzotti and Wu Tsai, both respected within basketball circles, but perceived by some fans as hostile to the league's new wave of stars, reinforces the image of a boardroom oligarchy unmoved by public sentiment. Whether this perception is fair is almost irrelevant. In negotiation, perception is currency, and the league is spending heavily on appearing resolute. The fan reaction to this dynamic has been visceral and, at times, vicious. Online discourse has increasingly turned against union leadership, framing the players' demands as ungrateful or delusional. Comment sections are filled with variations of the same sentiment. They're offering you generational wealth. Take the money and play. This is a simplification, but it is a politically potent one. The league, whether by design or by accident, has successfully framed itself as the reasonable actor, the entity putting real dollars on the table while the union appears increasingly radicalized, surrounded by political activists, and demanding terms that the business cannot yet support. The most dangerous threat to the WNBPA's bargaining position is not the league's hardline posture. It is not the calendar. It is not even public opinion. It is the growing philosophical divide within its own membership. According to multiple reports, the WNBPA's 7-member executive committee has been the site of increasingly intense debate. On one side is a faction that believes the time for incrementalism has passed. This group argues that the current moment, driven by surging viewership, cultural relevance, and a once-in-a-generation rookie class, represents the best and perhaps only opportunity to fundamentally reset the league's economic model. They are willing to risk a work stoppage. They are willing to miss paychecks. They are willing to sacrifice a season if it means securing a revenue-sharing framework that future generations of players will inherit. On the other side is a faction that views this gamble with deep apprehension. This group looks at the league's offer, $1.3 million max salaries, charter travel, housing stipends, and sees a package that would materially improve the lives of virtually every player in the league. They fear that turning down guaranteed gains in pursuit of an uncertain structural victory is not courage. It is recklessness. They worry that a strike would alienate the casual fans who have only recently discovered the league, undermine the momentum built by Clark and her peers, and ultimately force the players to accept a worse deal than the one currently on the table. The economic reality of the roster. This philosophical split maps imperfectly, but revealingly, onto the economic stratification of the league. The WNBA's top-tier players earning max salaries, supplementing their income with overseas contracts, and building endorsement portfolios can weather a prolonged shutdown. For players like Breanna Stewart, Aja Wilson, or Jewel Lloyd, a missed season is an inconvenience, not a catastrophe. Their financial security is diversified across multiple revenue streams. Their leverage is abstract. They are fighting for principle and legacy. The middle and bottom of the roster operate in a different universe. For players earning near the league minimum,
getting paid. They're getting paid. Maybe not. Monday's pivotal meeting between the WNBA players and owners at league offices in New York lasted roughly 3 hours before attendees slowly started trickling out. By the way, there's less than 100 days till the start of the season. Quote, they volunteered that they did not have a proposal.
For training camp invitees hoping to make a roster, for veterans hanging on at the end of the bench, every paycheck is consequential. Overseas opportunities are not guaranteed. Endorsement income is minimal or non-existent. The difference between a $70,000 salary and $0 for 6 months is not a philosophical debate. It is a housing crisis. It is a car payment. It is a child's tuition. This is the leverage the league is quietly banking on. Owners understand that unity is easiest to maintain when the stakes are abstract. It is much harder to maintain a strike mandate when rent is due, and the league is holding a check for 6 figures with the players' names already printed on it. The leadership dilemma. Union leadership has, understandably, attempted to project total unity. Publicly, there is no schism. There is no debate. There is only solidarity. But the very fact that reports of internal disagreement have leaked, that the executive committee's closed-door debates have become part of the public record, indicates that the pressure is becoming impossible to contain. When leaders are forced to spend energy rebutting specific talking points from online discourse, it is a sign that perception has become its own battleground. The union is no longer just negotiating with the league. It is negotiating with its own membership, trying to hold together a coalition of players whose economic interests are not aligned. This is the fracture zone. And if the calendar continues to shrink without a deal, this is where the rupture will occur. From the outside, the WNBA's negotiating posture can appear puzzling, even self-destructive. Here is a league that has finally achieved mainstream relevance, powered by a rookie class that has captured the national imagination. The players are asking for a greater share of what they believe is a growing pie. Why not give it to them? Why risk a work stoppage that could derail the very momentum the league has spent decades trying to manufacture? The answer lies in the ownership's fundamental interpretation of the league's financial trajectory and in a cold-eyed calculation about who bears the greater cost of a shutdown. The profitability question. Despite the visible surge in attendance and ratings, the WNBA's financial statements remain opaque. Owners have long claimed that the league operates at a loss, a position that has been supported by various independent analyses, but contested by players and advocates who argue that the league's accounting methods are designed to obscure profitability. What is not in dispute is that the WNBA has historically relied on NBA subsidies and the patience of ownership groups willing to accept short-term losses for long-term positioning. The current offer dramatically raising top-end salaries, adding charter travel, and expanding benefits represents, in the owner's view, a massive concession relative to this baseline. They are not refusing to pay players more. They are offering to pay players significantly more. What they are refusing to do is change the underlying economic structure of the league. The structural red line, revenue sharing, is not in itself a radical concept. It is the foundation of labor peace in the NFL, NBA, and NHL. But those leagues operate on massive, proven revenue bases. Their profitability is not theoretical. It is audited and distributed. The WNBA owners argue that locking in a fixed percentage of revenue before the league has consistently demonstrated profitability is premature and potentially dangerous. If they agree to a 50-over-50 split today, they are effectively guaranteeing the players a share of revenue that may not materialize. This shifts the risk of the league's growth trajectory entirely onto the ownership class. If revenue stagnates, the players' share remains fixed, and the owners absorb the shortfall. If revenue grows, the players receive a windfall that the owners believe should be reinvested in league infrastructure. The calendar as weapon. The owners also understand something that the union leadership is reluctant to acknowledge publicly. Time favors capital over labor. A work stoppage is painful for owners. They lose ticket revenue, media rights payments, and sponsorship activation opportunities. But most WNBA owners are high net worth individuals or corporate entities with diversified portfolios. A lost season is a financial setback. It is not an existential crisis. For many players, a lost season is an existential crisis. The league is betting that as the calendar ticks toward training camp and the reality of missed paychecks sets in, the internal pressure on the union to accept the existing framework will become overwhelming. The owners are not negotiating against the players' principles. They are negotiating against the players' bank accounts. This is not malice. It is leverage math. And it is why the league has been able to adopt a posture of serene patience while the union grows increasingly agitated. One of the most consequential battlegrounds in this dispute is not the negotiating table. It is the information ecosystem through which fans understand the dispute. Mainstream coverage of the CBA talks has tended to focus on the most digestible, tweetable elements of the league's offer. Headlines emphasize the $1.3 million max salary. Comparisons to the NBA's salary structure are inevitable and almost always unfavorable to the WNBA. The casual reader comes away with a simple impression. The owners are offering crumbs, and the players are right to be angry. This framing, while emotionally resonant, obscures the complexity of what is actually being proposed. The escalator clause. As previously noted, the league's offer does not stop at $1.3 million. The compensation structure includes annual escalators and revenue-sharing components that push the maximum compensation toward $2 million by the final year of the deal. A player signing a max contract today would see her earnings increase by nearly 50% over the life of the agreement without any additional negotiation. This matters because it reframes the offer from a static number to a dynamic trajectory. The league is not proposing a one-time bump. It is proposing a multi-year escalation that anticipates continued growth. The players' rejection of this framework suggests that they do not trust the league's growth projections or that they believe the growth is happening faster than the owners are willing to admit. The benefit package. The ancillary benefits included in the league's proposal, charter flights, housing stipends, enhanced maternity leave, are not minor concessions. They are responses to specific, long-standing grievances that players have articulated for years. The fact that these items are now being treated as baseline rather than aspirational is evidence of how dramatically the league's posture has shifted. Yet these benefits are rarely featured prominently in coverage. They are described in passing, if at all. The narrative remains fixated on the headline salary number, which is compared unfavorably to the NBA and dismissed as inadequate. The cultural warping. This flattening of the offer serves the union's strategic interests. If fans believe the league is offering poverty wages, they will side with the players. If fans understand that the league is offering life-changing money and the players are demanding more, the calculus shifts. The union has little incentive to correct the misperception. The league, meanwhile, struggles to communicate nuance in an environment optimized for outrage. The result is a perceptual gap that widens with every news cycle. Fans who dig deeper discover a more complicated picture and often react with hostility toward the union for what they perceive as manipulative framing. This hostility is increasingly directed at player representatives who find themselves defending a position that looks, to the uninformed observer, like greed. To understand why the current negotiations have become so acrimonious, one must understand the history that precedes them. The WNBA has never had a genuinely adversarial labor relationship with its players, not because the players were satisfied, but because the league was too fragile to withstand a fight. The first generation, when the WNBA launched in 1997, the players were grateful to have a professional league at all. The salary scale was modest, the working conditions were Spartan, and the revenue was minimal. The first generation of WNBA stars Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Cynthia Cooper built the league on a foundation of deferred compensation. They understood that they were investing in a future they might not fully experience. The second generation. By the 2010s, the league had stabilized but not thrived. Players like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, and Maya Moore inherited a league that was solvent but stagnant. They pushed for incremental improvements, better travel, higher minimum salaries, marketing bonuses, but the structural model remained unchanged. The owner's message was consistent. We are not profitable. We cannot afford an NBA-style system. The third generation. The current cohort of players led by the classes of 2018 through 2024 has inherited a league that is finally, visibly, undeniably growing. They have watched their predecessors sacrifice for decades without achieving economic parity. They have internalized the lesson that patience does not produce justice. And they have concluded that if they do not force structural change now, they will be having the same conversation in 2035. This historical arc explains the intensity of the current moment. The union is not just negotiating a contract, it is negotiating a verdict on 25 years of deferred dreams. The players believe they are standing at the hinge point of history. If they blink now, they fear the door will close forever. There is a dimension of this dispute that receives far less attention than it deserves: the reaction of the WNBA's commercial partners. The league's recent growth has been underwritten by a new generation of sponsors and media rights holders. Companies that previously viewed the WNBA as a niche, low ROI investment are now allocating significant marketing dollars to league partnerships. Broadcasters that once relegated games to secondary channels are now featuring marquee matchups in prime windows. These partners did not sign up for a work stoppage. The sponsor perspective. For a sponsor, continuity is value. Marketing campaigns are planned months in advance. Activation budgets are allocated based on expected game schedules. Merchandise orders are placed based on projected player availability. A strike does not just cancel games, it cancels the entire commercial apparatus built around those games. Sponsors do not take sides in labor disputes. They do not issue press releases supporting ownership or labor. They simply reassess their risk exposure. A league that cannot guarantee labor peace is a league that carries an additional layer of uncertainty. And in the competitive landscape of professional sports marketing, uncertainty is a deterrent. The media partner perspective. The WNBA's current media rights agreement, negotiated during the league's pre-surge era, is widely considered undervalued. The next negotiation, whenever it occurs, will be an opportunity to reset the league's broadcast revenue at a level commensurate with its new audience metrics. But that reset depends on the league demonstrating stability. Networks pay premiums for predictability. A season lost to labor conflict would be used as leverage to suppress future rights fees. The casual fan perspective. Perhaps the most difficult damage to quantify and the most difficult to repair is the erosion of casual fan habits. The WNBA has spent years trying to convince viewers that its product is appointment viewing. The 2024 and 2025 seasons represented a breakthrough. Ratings spiked, storylines multiplied, and the cultural conversation began to treat the league as a mainstream property rather than a niche interest. A work stoppage breaks that habit. Fans who have recently discovered the league will discover other ways to spend their Tuesday nights. When the league returns, it will not return to the same audience. It will have to rebuild from a smaller base. This is the existential risk that neither side is publicly acknowledging. The WNBA has spent 25 years trying to reach this moment of cultural relevance. It could lose it in 25 days. As of this writing, the WNBA and WNBPA are approximately 90 days from the scheduled start of the 2026 season. Training camps are weeks away. Free agency is in limbo. The draft class of 2026, the next wave of rookies, is watching with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The next phase of this negotiation will determine not just the salary structure for the next 5 years, but the trajectory of the league for the next decade. There are two plausible paths forward. Path 1. The pragmatic settlement. In this scenario, the union accepts that the structural revolution it seeks is not achievable in this cycle. The players ratify a deal that locks in the dramatic salary increases, benefit improvements, and operational upgrades currently on the table. They declare victory because, objectively, it is a victory, and return to the court. The league continues its growth trajectory. The 2026 season opens as scheduled, capitalizing on the momentum generated by the 2024 to 2025 surge. Sponsors remain committed. media partners schedule their most ambitious coverage yet. The players, enriched and empowered, use the next 5 years to accumulate the financial evidence they need to return to the table in 2030 with irrefutable proof of the league's value. Path 2. The structural gamble. In this scenario, the union holds its line. It refuses to accept a deal that does not fundamentally reset the revenue-sharing model. The league, equally resolute, refuses to open the CBA to structural negotiation. The calendar expires. Training camps are delayed. Games are canceled. The strike begins. The players sacrifice paychecks in pursuit of principle. The owners absorb losses while projecting patience. The public narrative fractures. Some fans rally to the players' cause. Others drift away, frustrated by the interruption of their newly formed viewing habits. Eventually, perhaps weeks, perhaps months, the pressure on the rank-and-file players becomes unsustainable. The union fractures. A deal is reached, likely on terms less favorable than the one currently on the table. The league resumes play, but the momentum is broken. The audience is smaller. The sponsors are more cautious. The next media rights negotiation is conducted in the shadow of the stoppage. Which path is more likely? History suggests that in labor disputes, where the economic pressure is asymmetrically distributed, the side with less financial cushion eventually bends. The WNBA players are not the NFL-PA, with decades of accumulated wealth and massive endorsement ecosystems. They are a young union in a young league, and most of their members cannot afford to miss a full season. This does not mean the players are wrong to fight. It does not mean their structural demands are illegitimate. It simply means that timing is cruel. The leverage they need to win their ideal deal may not arrive until after they have already accepted a deal that locks in the very structure they seek to escape. It is easy, in analyzing a labor dispute, to become lost in abstractions, revenue percentages, escalator clauses, bargaining units, counterproposals. These are the tools of the trade, the vocabulary of negotiation. But beneath the jargon are human beings. There are players who have spent their entire professional careers waiting for this moment, who have watched male athletes with inferior statistics sign contracts worth more than their entire league's salary cap. There are players who have sacrificed their bodies, their time, and their financial security to build a league that is finally, belatedly, being recognized as world-class. And there are players who look at the offer on the table and see not generosity, but belated justice. There are also owners who have invested millions of dollars into a league that has never returned a profit, who have subsidized losses for years, waiting for the growth that now seems imminent. There are executives who genuinely believe that signing a structurally unsound deal today would jeopardize the league's long-term survival. And there are commissioners whose job is not to satisfy the players' ambitions but to protect the ownership class from its own generosity. There are fans who have loved this league through its leanest years, who attended games in half-empty arenas, who subscribed to streaming services to watch games that were not on television, who defended the WNBA against dismissive commentary from sports radio hosts who had never watched a full quarter. These fans are watching the current dispute with a mixture of fear and frustration, worried that the league they nurtured through obscurity is about to self-destruct at the moment of its greatest visibility. And there is Caitlin Clark, the accidental revolutionary, who did not ask to become the symbol of the WNBA's new era, but has accepted the role with grace. She is not the loudest voice in the room, but she is the most visible presence on the court. She understands that her leverage is not in what she says, but in what she does. She plays, she draws viewers, she generates revenue, and she waits for the adults in the room to figure out how to divide it. The meeting in New York ended without ceremony. The owners gathered their materials. The players' representatives stood and walked toward the door. The dozens of players listening remotely logged off and returned to their lives training, waiting, hoping. Outside the league offices, the city continued its indifferent rhythm. Taxis honked, pedestrians rushed, the sky darkened toward evening. Inside, the silence lingered. It was the silence of a negotiation that has stalled. The silence of two sides who have said everything they have to say and are waiting for the other to blink. The silence of a calendar that keeps turning, bringing the season closer, and the margin for error thinner. That silence is not the end of the story. It is simply the pause before the next chapter. What comes next depends on choices that have not yet been made. The owners could decide that protecting momentum is worth compromising on structure. The players could decide that securing generational wealth is worth deferring their structural revolution. Or both sides could hold their positions until the calendar forces a confrontation that neither truly wants.